Brought to you by the West Michigan chapters of Public Relations Society of America, the AMA, and the Ad Federation. I'm Andrea Clark. I'm current president of PRSA and a very proud Amway employee. Welcome to World Headquarters. On behalf of all three partner groups, I want to welcome all of our members and our guests today. If you're not a member, sign up. Before I introduce our esteemed guest, Candace, I just want to thank our sponsors, Holland Litho and Amway, for making today possible. A lot of folks put a lot of time into this event, as you probably can imagine. I want to recognize a few of them. I probably will miss a few, but Juanita Varel from our board. I want to also recognize Kim Bodie from AMA and Sherry Compton, who could not be here today because she's bringing her daughter to college. Dave Kramer from the Ad Fed, as well as Laura Melendez, who helped with registration, which you can imagine was a bit of an issue. I also want to thank Kristen Gallagher from my team. She's been priceless. And Jane Germain, who is Candace's assistant, who kept the ball rolling on Candace's end. So thank you, Jane and Kristen. And I get the pleasure of introducing Candace. Candace is awesome, and you'll see that in a minute. She joined Amway in 2000 in December. She's been here just about 2 years, and she came to us from Soft Sheen Carson, which is a consumer products division of L'Oreal. She was president there for about 6 years, and prior to that, she worked at a few small companies like Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Bausch & Lomb, Ciba Vision, and General Mills. And I believe, Candace, while you were at Stanford getting your master's in business, you were recruited to General Mills from Ann Fudge, your mentor. And some of you may have heard of Ann Fudge. She's a very prominent executive African-American female who was very key in Candace's life. Candace and her husband Bruce live just a few minutes from here today, which is a much better commute than the hour and a half each way she drove to L'Oreal in New York. Or not drove, commuted. I don't think she drove. She and her husband live with their 3 children, twin daughters, and a son. And Candace will tell you more about how she's making Amway a more consumer-oriented, performance-driven, and innovative company. Candace?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, let's try that again. Good afternoon. All right. Come on, you guys are PR and marketing. First of all, thank you all for inviting me. It is such a pleasure to be here before you. I have 2 quick apologies and 2 quick corrections. The apologies are, I forgot the belt, so I have to hold this in my hand, Got dressed and for some reason didn't realize that I had to hook this. So that's apology number 1. The other one is my voice is a little scratchy. I'm trying not to catch a cold now that my kids are in school. 2 quick corrections. Jane is not my assistant. She runs my life. And the second one, as of 2 weeks ago, we now have 4 children. We have taken custody of one of our 7-year-old nieces. So we have 2 5th graders, a 2nd grader, and a young 5s. So yeah, life is a little busy. So when Andrea said, come talk to the group, and I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? She said, well, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then tell them what you're going to do. And so I want to talk about just giving you a little bit about my background. Okay, I know you've read, I am truly the youngest of 18 children. I grew up in a little town in western Pennsylvania called New Brighton. It is about this big. It's about 35 miles northwest of Pittsburgh. How we became to have 18 children, my father, who happened to be a minister, was married. His first wife had 5 children. She passed away very young. He married my mother, who happened to be 16 years younger. I still tell her that she was crazy to have done that. 13 more, of which I'm the last one. And my mother raised all of them, and she passed away in 2001. And all of our children, all of us were raised on a lot of prayer and education because my father passed away in 1969. There were 6 of us still not graduated from high school. So I commend my parents for what they built in a foundation, even though they didn't have the financial resources. They instilled in us that we could become anything. And as a result, we were able to get educated regardless of the financial resources. And I also like to leave kind of the 3 things that my mother always told me because I think that they were the things that helped me succeed in life. The first one was, where there's a will, there's a way. So I never took no from anybody. And if you know people around here, they'll tell you I'm still that way. The second one is, when the Lord closes a door, he opens a window. And so anytime anything happened in life, it was something better will come up. And I strongly believe that. And so I never let anything that was shut stop me from going to the next thing. And the third thing was, unto whom much is given, much is required. And that is one of the key things that I have tried to live, is that I've been blessed with mentors, as Andrea mentioned, or people in my life who have guided me and given me many different things, be it time, be it resources, whatever it is. But all they expect is that I do that for somebody else. And so those are kind of the three philosophies that I live by. And I wanted just to share that because that's a very important part of me. Quickly about my career progression. I studied metallurgical engineering at Carnegie-Mellon University, and I thought I was going to run a steel mill. I loved math, I loved sciences, and that's what I really wanted to do. Well, when I entered college in 1977, which is probably more older than many people in this room, and then graduated in 1981, the steel industry moved from here to elsewhere in the world. And so I was fortunate enough to have an advisor in business school that said, augment your engineering degree with a business degree. And if you're going to go, make it count. So I applied to business schools right as a senior in college and had the opportunity to defer my enrollment to Stanford for 2 years to get some experience, most of which was at General Motors. General Motors actually paid a lot of my college education. I was a GM scholar. And so I worked at their Packard Electric division. I worked at the Warren Tech Center. I worked at the Saginaw Nodular Iron Foundry, for any of you who've ever been to Saginaw. Yeah. One of the reasons also why I had to get an MBA. But you know, I was very fortunate to get some very strong guidance. So I went and got my MBA and started my marketing career at General Mills in Minneapolis. Worked there for 3 years on kids' snacks, like the roll-ups, fruit roll-ups, and introduced pudding roll-ups, which really didn't last, so we learned some failures in our career as well. And had a chance to work on Wheaties, things of that nature. Left there and went to what was at the time Noxell, which is Noxzema and CoverGirl, and was there when Procter & Gamble acquired Noxell. So I was very fortunate in the first 10 years of my career to work for both General Mills and Procter & Gamble, which in the marketing world is really a dream. So I got to experience both places and I got the bug for beauty while I was at Noxell and had the pleasure of introducing CoverGirl's first range for women of color, because it was very difficult to work there and not be able to wear anything. So took a few years, but we got it out there. And, but that was a wonderful, wonderful experience being there. I left there and moved to Atlanta and did a very brief stint at Bausch & Lomb's oral care division, because when I was moving there, I said, okay, I'm moving to Atlanta, Bausch & Lomb's in Rochester, we're not going to move the division, right? No, no, no. And 15 months later, they moved the division. And I was like, no. Can't leave Atlanta for Rochester. There's a bit of a difference between the two cities. So I stayed in Atlanta and went to work for Ciba. And at that time, Ciba and Ciba and Sandoz had not merged to make Novartis yet. It was still Ciba. And I went to Ciba for two main reasons. I had had a strong foundation in marketing, but I really hadn't done a strategy role. And I wanted to get some foundation in strategy. The second reason was I didn't have any global experience yet. And Ciba was going to offer me that. So I took this job for 3 years, and that was where I got my